The Hale residence was the kind of place that made silence feel expensive. Marble floors gleamed like still water under soft golden light. Every surface shone, every room echoed faintly, as if even sound needed permission to exist there. Adam Hale, 41, was a man who measured time in deals, not days. His empire stretched across real estate, tech, and philanthropy foundations he barely remembered approving. To the world, he was the symbol of modern nobility, wealth wrapped in restraint. But to himself, lately he was just a man haunted by the sound of his own solitude. He'd returned from yet another gala that night, all tailored smiles and crystal glasses, and for once he didn't turn on the lights in his study. He loosened his tie, stared out at the city skyline through the wall of glass, and wondered how something so full of light could still feel so hollow. Then he heard it, a faint rustle, the soft scrape of metal against porcelain. From the dining room. Adam turned. His voice, when it came, was low but sharp. "Who's there?" No answer. Just another sound. Hurried, muffled. He walked toward it, his footsteps measured, the marble amplifying every echo. The long dining table, 10 meters of polished oak, was set with the remnants of the staff's dinner. The faint smell of roasted chicken and fresh bread still lingered. At first he thought it was one of the kitchen workers cleaning late, but then he saw movement under the far end of the table. A small, trembling shadow. He frowned. "Come out." The figure froze. Adam took another step, his voice softer this time. "It's all right. You're safe. Come out." And then she did. Slowly, a girl no older than 10, with tangled brown hair, wide eyes, and a shirt 2 sizes too small. She clutched a crust of bread in one hand, crumbs dusting her fingers. Her lips trembled, her cheeks flushed red from embarrassment and fear. Adam blinked, speechless. What are you doing here?" The girl's voice was barely a whisper. I was hungry." Something inside him cracked. The words were so simple, so naked, they seemed to pierce straight through his armor. He knelt slightly, trying to see her face. "You're one of the staff's children?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Mama works here. She said to wait in the laundry room, but I was hungry, sir. I didn't take much. I'm sorry." Adam stared at the crust in her hand. The same table where hours ago, guests had left plates half full, where he'd watched waiters throw away untouched meals. "You're Adanna's daughter, aren't you?" he said finally, recognizing the faint resemblance. The same eyes, only smaller, softer. "Yes, sir. Loose." Her voice cracked when she said it. He took a slow breath, fighting an emotion he couldn't yet name. "Why didn't you just ask for food?" Luce looked down. "Mama says we shouldn't bother rich people." The words hit harder than he expected. He looked away for a second, jaw tightening. "You're not bothering anyone. You're a child." But even as he said it, the realization dawned on him. How had he never noticed? He'd walked past Adanna dozens of times, her quiet bow, her calm smile. He'd never asked where she went after hours, what her world looked like beyond his polished floors. And now here was her daughter, small and starving, crouched beneath his table like a secret shame. He felt something burn in his throat. "Did anyone tell you you could come in here?" a voice snapped behind him. Adam turned sharply. It was Noam, the head of household staff, stiff in his uniform, face taut with anger. "I found the pantry door open," Noam said coldly. "I suspected the cleaning girl's child again. She's been warned before." Luce flinched at the sound of his voice. "Warned?" Adam repeated, eyes narrowing. "Yes, sir. This isn't the first time she's been caught sneaking around. I told her mother it wouldn't be tolerated." "That's enough," Adam interrupted quietly. Gnome blinked. "Sir, if I may, I said enough." Adam's tone cut like glass now. The air shifted. Even the silence felt different, heavier. Gnome lowered his head slightly, though his jaw clenched in defiance. Adam turned back to Luce. Her eyes were wet now, but she tried to hide it by looking at the floor. "You're not in trouble," he said gently. "Do you understand me?" "Not at all." She nodded hesitantly. He extended his hand toward her. "Come on. Let's find your mother." Luce looked at his hand for a moment, then placed her tiny, trembling fingers into his. The warmth of her skin startled him. It felt fragile, alive, human. As they walked through the hallway, Adam couldn't help noticing her bare feet padding softly against the cold marble. The sight struck him deeper than any headline about inequality ever could. They found Adanna in the laundry wing, a narrow, dimly lit corridor that smelled faintly of soap and exhaustion. She was folding linens when she saw them, and the moment her eyes found her daughter, her face drained of color. "Luce!" she gasped, dropping the sheets.
"Oh my God, sir, I'm so sorry. I told her to stay put. Please, she didn't mean—"
Adam raised a hand gently. "It's all right, Adanna. She was hungry. That's all." Tears filled the maid's eyes. "Sir, please don't let them fire me. She gets dizzy sometimes if she hasn't eaten. I give her what I can, but—" He shook his head. "No one's being fired. But tell me the truth." His voice softened. "How long has this been happening?" Adanna hesitated, then whispered, "A few months, sir. Things have been hard since my husband passed. Rent went up and I didn't want to ask for help. I thought it might cost me my job." Adam closed his eyes briefly. For a man who had spent billions on charitable foundations, he had somehow missed the quiet suffering right under his own roof. He opened them again, his voice steady but different now, quieter, more human. "You should have come to me." Adanna looked up, startled. "You? Sir, I didn't think you'd care." That sentence stayed suspended between them, fragile and brutal. Adam didn't answer right away. He just looked at her, then at Luce, then at the endless white linen stacked behind them, as if the house itself was trying to hide the truth in its cleanliness. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost to himself. "Maybe I didn't care enough before, but I do now." Adanna blinked. He turned to Luce, forcing a faint smile. "Come on, kiddo. Let's get you something warm to eat." Gnome's voice echoed faintly from the other end of the corridor. "Sir, shall I prepare disciplinary?" Adam cut him off again, sharper this time. "Gnome, go home for the night." The man froze. "Sir?" "I said go home." There was a flicker of disbelief, then anger, then submission. "Yes, sir." When Gnome disappeared, the house seemed to exhale. Adam led Luce and Adanna to the kitchen himself, something no employer in that house had ever done. The cooks had gone home, so he found a pot, some leftover stew, and ladled it into a bowl. His movements were clumsy, unused to this kind of task, but he didn't stop. He set the bowl in front of Luce. Steam curled upward like forgiveness. She hesitated, glancing at her mother. Adanna whispered, "Go on, love." Luce began to eat, slowly at first, then faster, tears mixing with the warmth of the soup. Adam stood there, silent, his hands still resting on the counter. He didn't try to stop the ache in his chest. When she finally looked up at him, eyes clearer, cheeks fuller, she said softly, "Thank you, sir." He managed a small smile. "No need to call me sir when you're eating." For the first time that night, a laugh, faint but real, escaped her lips. It echoed softly through the grand, empty kitchen. Adam realized something then. This house, for all its art and architecture, had never known what warmth really sounded like. That night, long after Adanna took Luce home, Adam sat alone in the same kitchen. The bowl and spoon still sat in the sink. He poured himself a glass of water and looked at the faint reflection of his face in the window. He didn't like what he saw, not because of the lines or fatigue, but because he finally recognized something. He had built a palace of glass, and somehow forgotten the people living inside it. He whispered to the empty air, almost a vow, "No more." The words trembled slightly, but they were real, and that made them powerful. Outside, the night pressed closer, but somewhere in the city, a little girl slept with a full stomach for the first time in weeks. The mansion was still dark when Adam woke. No alarm, no meeting reminders, just the uneasy quiet of a man who hadn't slept properly in years. He sat up, his mind replaying the image again and again. A little girl crouched beneath his table, clutching a crust of bread like treasure. Luce. The name whispered itself through his thoughts. He poured himself coffee, though it went cold untouched. Outside, the dawn was washing over the skyline, tinting glass towers gold, the same color as the coins his life had revolved around. For the first time, he hated the reflection. He walked through the halls, the portraits of board members, the sculptures he'd never looked at, the antique clock ticking like a slow accusation. Each sound reminded him of the silence Luce had lived in. When the staff arrived, they found him in the main dining room, sleeves rolled up, every leftover from the previous night laid out across the table. "Sir?" the head cook stammered, startled. Adam didn't look up. "How much of this was thrown away yesterday?" The cook hesitated. "Most of it, sir. It's standard procedure. After guests leave." "Standard procedure," Adam repeated softly, almost to himself. He stared at the untouched roast, the half-full platters. "You mean we waste more food in one night than Adanna earns in a week?" The cook swallowed. "Sir, He waved a hand gently. "It's not your fault, it's mine." The staff exchanged uncertain glances. They'd never seen him like this. Not angry, not arrogant, just stripped of all pretense. He stood there, staring at the feast of waste, and something in him broke open. For years, Adam had hidden behind numbers, profit margins, donations, percentages. It was easy to feel generous on paper, but it meant nothing if 2 floors below, a child had to steal bread to survive. He remembered the sound of Luce's voice. "Mama says we shouldn't bother rich people." He pressed his palms against the table. His reflection wavered in the sheen of the wood, a distorted version of himself, the kind of man he never wanted to be. The words came quietly at first, but with weight. "No more." He said it again, louder. "No more." It wasn't just a promise, it was a verdict. That morning he called a meeting, every department head, every senior staff member. By the time they gathered in the conference hall, tension pulsed through the air. Noam stood at the far end, his usual smug composure intact, unaware that the tide had already shifted. Adam entered in silence, no suit jacket, no facade, just a man in a shirt and rolled sleeves, eyes clear and unreadable. "Let's make this brief," he began. His voice was calm, too calm. "Last night I witnessed something that changed how I see this house, and perhaps myself." Murmurs rippled. Noam stiffened. A child, the daughter of one of our staff, was found eating leftovers from this table, not stealing jewelry, not breaking anything, just hungry. The room fell still. Adam's eyes swept across them. And yet, she was treated like a criminal. Warned, threatened, humiliated. His gaze landed on Noam. By someone in this very room. Noam's jaw tightened. "Sir, if I may." "You may not." Silence dropped like a curtain. Adam leaned forward slightly. I built this house to be a place of order, not cruelty, to represent dignity, not disgust. If anyone here believes compassion is weakness, I assure you, you're working for the wrong man. The staff shifted uneasily. Even those who had never liked Gnome dared not meet his eyes. Gnome forced a thin smile. Sir, perhaps you're overreacting. It's improper for the help's children to roam unsupervised. There are rules. Adam cut him off, his tone steady, but iron beneath. Rules are meant to protect people, not strip them of their humanity. He turned to his assistant. From now on, staff meals are to be increased. Children are allowed on the property after hours if supervised, and every month surplus food will go to community kitchens. No more waste. Yes, sir, the assistant murmured quickly. Then Adam looked at Gnome again. As for you, take the week off. Reflect on whether this job requires heart as much as management. Gnome's composure cracked for a moment, a flicker of disbelief, maybe rage, but he swallowed it, bowing slightly. Understood. When the room emptied, Adam stood alone at the window. He should have felt satisfied. He didn't. Justice, he realized, wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about admitting you were the one who broke it. That night, he found himself driving. No destination, no plan. Just miles of highway and the low hum of guilt pressing on his chest. He stopped at a corner where the city lights dimmed, and the world grew quieter. A small church stood there, its doors half open. He stepped inside, not out of faith, but out of need. The pews were empty except for an old man sweeping near the altar. He looked up, smiled faintly. "You're a bit early for Sunday." Adam chuckled softly, though his voice trembled. "Maybe I'm late for everything else." The man leaned on his broom. "Heavy heart?" Adam sighed. "I saw a child last night. She was hungry. In my house. And I didn't know. I didn't see." The old man nodded, eyes kind. "You saw now. That's what matters." Adam looked away. "Is it? I built a life where I could buy anything. Except peace of mind." "Then give something money can't buy," the man said simply. The words lingered long after Adam left. Back home, the mansion felt different. The silence was no longer proud. It was uncomfortable. Every corner seemed to ask, "What are you going to do now?" He sat at his desk and opened his laptop. For years, he'd signed donation checks like breathing, detached, routine. But tonight, he started something else entirely. He began typing a new directive for his foundation, a scholarship fund for children of domestic workers, health support for single parents, and one small clause, handwritten at the end. "No child under my roof will ever go hungry again." He leaned back, exhaling. It wasn't redemption, not yet. But it was a beginning. The next morning, Adanna arrived early, cautious, expecting reprimand. She found Adam already in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up again. "Sir?" she asked softly. He turned, smiling faintly. "Good morning." "Sit, please." She hesitated, unsure. "I don't think I should, sir." "Then think again," he said gently. She sat slowly, eyes darting around the room as if expecting Gnome to appear from the shadows. Adam poured her coffee. "How's Luce?" Her lips trembled into a smile. "Better. She asked if she could thank you, but I didn't want her to bother you." "She wouldn't be bothering me," Adam said. "Tell her I said she can visit any time." Adanna's eyes filled. "You're too kind, sir." He shook his head. "No, just late." She looked puzzled. He gestured around the vast, perfect kitchen. "I spent years building walls when I should have been building bridges." For the first time since she'd known him, Adanna saw not a billionaire, but a man trying to become human again.
Sir,
she said softly.
some things can't be fixed overnight.
He smiled. Then I'll start today. Later that day, Adam walked the estate grounds. Children's laughter floated faintly from the nearby staff quarters, a sound he'd never heard here before. The air felt lighter somehow. He paused near the rose garden, Adanna's favorite spot to rest between shifts. A small wooden bench stood there, worn but dignified. He sat down, watching the morning sun slip through the leaves. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the weight of his guilt, and the strange comfort of knowing it meant he still had a heart. The phone in his pocket buzzed. Another investor meeting. He ignored it. Instead, he whispered again, this time not as an apology, but a prayer. No more. And somewhere deep inside the house, in a room where laughter would soon return, the words began to take root. 3 days passed since that night. The Hale estate felt different now. It wasn't visible in the marble or chandeliers, but in the silence that had softened. The air that once carried fear now carried whispers of hope, cautious, fragile hope that something had shifted in the great house on Wellington Hill. But not everyone welcomed the change. Noam's absence was noticed and resented. The staff corridor buzzed quietly with speculation. Had he been fired, suspended, or worse, demoted? Adanna, though grateful, stayed on edge. For people like her, kindness from the rich was often short-lived. She had learned to hold gratitude in one hand and fear in the other, and she knew Noam, prideful, vindictive, would not stay quiet for long. Adam stood in his study, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the city beyond the glass. He had barely touched his breakfast. The decision forming in his mind had been brewing for days, and now it was ready. He picked up his phone and called his security chief, Marcus Trent, a man built like an oak tree, loyal, quiet, and precise. "Marcus," Adam said, voice steady, "I need a full report on my household management. Salaries, staff treatment, hours, everything. And I want it discreet." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied immediately. "Problem with someone in particular?" Adam hesitated. "Yes, Noam." A pause, then, "Understood. I'll keep it clean." "Don't," Adam said after a beat. "Keep it honest." 2 hours later, Marcus entered the study with a folder thick enough to make Adam's stomach tighten. "Everything you asked for, sir," Marcus said, setting it down. His jaw flexed once, a silent tell of disapproval. "You might want to read page 5. Adam flipped through quickly, then stopped. Unauthorized wage cuts, personal use of staff labor, intimidation, threats, even reports of selling expired goods from the mansion pantry to lower staff at inflated prices. Adam's hands curled slowly over the edge of the folder. "How long has this been happening?" Marcus's voice was careful. "Too long, sir. People were too scared to talk. You trusted Noam completely." Adam closed his eyes briefly, anger and guilt warring inside him. He saw Luce's face again, her fear, her trembling apology. And he understood, finally, how fear had been weaponized under his nose. He straightened. "Where is Noam now?" "Back on site," Marcus said. "He arrived an hour ago. Said he wanted to speak with you." Adam's lips pressed into a thin line. "Perfect. Send him in." Noam entered like a man stepping into a battlefield he didn't believe he could lose. "Sir," he began smoothly, "I wanted to apologize if I overstepped last week. I understand there was misunderstanding regarding the maid's child." Adam didn't respond. He gestured toward the folder on the desk. You recognize this? Gnome faltered. Sir? Records, Adam said evenly. Your records. Payroll, food logs, staff complaints. Every hidden cruelty laid out like an autopsy. Gnome's throat moved. Sir, I can explain. Don't. The single word landed like a hammer. Adam's tone remained calm, but his eyes, once detached and distant, now burned with clarity. I built this house believing it was a refuge. You turned it into a hierarchy of fear. You took advantage of people who trusted you. Women. Children. Sir, with respect. With respect? Adam repeated, voice hardening. You disrespected everything I stand for. You used my name to make people suffer. Gnome's mask slipped, arrogance creeping in. I've run this estate efficiently for 8 years. Maybe your conscience has gotten soft, sir, but this is how things stay in order. Adam stepped forward slowly. Order without compassion isn't order, Gnome. It's tyranny. The air thickened. Gnome's voice dropped low. And what happens when kindness makes servants lazy? When they start thinking they're equals? Adam didn't blink. Then maybe that's the first real sign of humanity this house has seen. Gnome's face twisted. You're letting one hungry child cloud your judgment. Adam leaned in slightly, his voice cold as glass. One hungry child opened my eyes, and now you'll never close them again. He turned to Marcus, who had been standing silently by the door. Marcus, ensure Mr. Gnome collects his belongings and leaves the property immediately. His severance is cancelled, pending investigation for financial misconduct. Gnome stiffened. You can't. I can, Adam said quietly. And I just did. Marcus moved forward. Gnome's composure broke. He looked between them, realization dawning. This is absurd. You'll regret this. Those people, they don't deserve your pity. Adam's voice rose for the first time, not in anger, but in something sharper. They deserve respect, and if you can't understand that, you don't belong here. Gnome froze under the weight of those words. Then, with a bitter glare, he turned and stormed out. When the door closed, the silence left behind was deep, cleansing. Marcus exhaled slowly. Didn't think I'd ever see you lose patience, sir. Adam gave a faint, tired smile. I didn't. That wasn't anger, Marcus. That was justice trying to breathe. Marcus nodded. You want me to make the rest of the staff aware? Yes. Tell them this place runs on dignity now. No one eats in fear anymore. That evening, as the sun melted into the skyline, Adam walked through the staff quarters for the first time in years. Heads turned, conversations paused. The billionaire was among them, not as an overseer, but as someone walking through the truth. He stopped by Adanna's door and knocked softly. She opened it, eyes wide with alarm until she saw his expression. Gentle, steady. Sir? I wanted to tell you personally, Adam said. Gnome won't be returning. Adanna's hand flew to her mouth. You mean he's gone? Gone, Adam confirmed. And there'll be no more whispers or warnings for doing what's right. Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. Sir, I don't know how to thank you. You already did, he said quietly, when you kept going, even when no one saw. Behind her, Luce peeked out, holding a small paper drawing of a house and a smiling man. Hi, Mr. Adam, she said shyly. He smiled. Is that me? She nodded proudly. Mama said you made the bad man go away. Adam crouched, eye level with her. Maybe I just remembered what a good man's supposed to do. She handed him the drawing. You can keep it. He took it carefully, as if it were something sacred. I will. The next few weeks changed everything. Adam didn't just remove Nome, he rebuilt the system. Staff meals became shared meals. Uniform rules were revised. The mansion pantry opened to the workers' families every Sunday. He even ordered a small playground to be built on the estate's rear lawn. Children should laugh where adults forgot how, he'd said. News spread quietly through the city, the reclusive billionaire changing his ways. Reporters speculated. Cynics scoffed. But those inside the Hale estate didn't care. They knew the truth. The man at the top had finally learned how to kneel beside the people below. One evening, Marcus entered Adam's study again. "Sir, the auditors confirmed your suspicions about Nome. He was pocketing thousands over the years." Adam didn't look surprised. "Transfer half of it into the new staff fund. The rest, donate anonymously to a local shelter." Marcus nodded. "Will do. Anything else?" Adam looked out at the sunset burning over the skyline. "Yes. Find a good clinic in the city, the one Adanna mentioned her daughter visits sometimes." Marcus frowned slightly. "Something wrong with Luz?" Adam smiled faintly. "Just something I need to make right." That night, Adam stood alone on the mansion balcony. The garden lights below glowed softly, casting long shadows over the roses. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear faint laughter, children's laughter, floating on the wind. He closed his eyes, breathing it in. He had spent a lifetime chasing power. Now he had found peace in its reversal. The call he'd made that morning had set off something unstoppable, not just a restructuring of his house, but a reformation of his heart. And he knew what came next. Tomorrow he would visit that clinic himself, quietly, without cameras, without speeches. He wanted to see the place where healing happened not through money, but through kindness. The clinic sat on the edge of the city, the kind of place people passed without noticing. No marble floors, no glass towers, just faded paint, a cracked sidewalk, and a sign that flickered whenever the wind blew too strongly. Adam stood outside his car for a moment, taking in the scene. He'd been to hospitals around the world, sleek, private, sparkling places where problems were solved with money and signatures. This was something else. It felt small, tired, but alive, as though compassion had kept it standing long after the city stopped caring. He slipped inside quietly. The waiting room was crowded. A dozen parents sat with sleepy children in their laps, some coughing, some wrapped in blankets. A nurse moved between them, gently, quickly, like someone balancing too many worlds at once. Nobody recognized him. And he preferred it that way. He took a seat in the corner. A toddler whimpered in his mother's arms. An elderly man massaged his knee with careful circles. A teen boy leaned against the wall, breathing shallowly through a cracked inhaler. Adam had never been in a room like this, a place where need was not hidden, where people came because they had nowhere else to go. His heart tightened. How had he lived this long without seeing? The door swung open, letting in a gust of cold air, and two familiar figures, Adanna gripping a worn tote bag, and beside her, Luz, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one missing ear. They took a seat near the front. Adanna's worry was clear, etched into her posture, her trembling hands smoothing Luz's hair again and again. Adam's breath stilled. He almost stepped forward, almost called her name. But something stopped him. This was their world, a world he needed to understand before barging into. He stayed where he was, watching quietly. After a few minutes, the nurse called, "Adanna Lewis? Luz?" Adanna rose, lifting Luz gently. The girl leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, too tired, too pale. Adam's chest tightened at the sight. They disappeared behind the clinic door. He waited, minutes stretching into small eternities, until finally Adanna reappeared, holding a pamphlet, her eyes glistening. That's when he approached. Adanna. She startled, spinning around. Sir, Mr. Adam? Why are you here? To see how she's doing. Her eyes flicked to his suit, the polished shoes out of place on the scuffed clinic tiles. Sir, you don't belong in a place like this. Adam shook his head gently. I should have been here a long time ago. Her breath trembled. She looked down, embarrassed, as though being seen here was shameful. How's Luce? He asked softly. Adanna hesitated, then handed him the paper. He scanned it quickly. Chronic anemia, recurring fainting spells, recommended dietary supplements, blood tests, regular follow-up. He froze on the last part. Recommended but declined, due to cost. Adanna's voice was small. I can afford the basics, sir, but the tests, they're too much. We manage. Manage? Adam whispered. She's a child. Tears spilled from her eyes before she could stop them. Sir, I'm doing my best. It's just been so hard alone. Some months I choose between rent and medicine, and I choose rent, because if we're homeless, I lose her anyway. Adam closed his eyes. This was the part of the world he'd never seen. Not because it was invisible, but because he had never cared to look anywhere but upward. He crouched down, face level with Luce, who sat weakly in the chair. Hey, he said softly. Feeling any better? She nodded faintly. A little. He offered a small smile. Mind if I talk with your mom for a bit? She shook her head and hugged her rabbit closer. Adam led Adanna a few steps away, speaking low. From today, he said, Luce gets everything she needs. Tests, supplements, meals, anything. And you're getting a full medical plan. No more skipping treatment. No more choosing between rent and health. Adanna blinked hard. Sir, I can't accept that. You've already done so much. Adam's voice dropped. I haven't done enough. But, Adanna, he said softly, you work full days, come home to a child who depends entirely on you, and still show up with a smile. Helping you isn't charity. It's justice. Her lips trembled before she whispered, Thank you, Adam. The use of his first name struck him harder than expected. It made him human, not Mr. Hale, not Sir, just a man standing in a worn-down clinic trying to make something right. The doctor emerged from the doorway, looking tired but kind. Oh, you must be Luce's guardian? He said to Adam automatically. Adanna flinched. No, he's... Adam placed a hand gently on her shoulder. I'm a friend, he said to the doctor. The doctor nodded. Well, she needs proper nutrition and monitoring. She's small for her age, and the fainting spells are concerning. Adam glanced at Luce through the doorway. We'll handle it. Whatever she needs. The doctor raised an eyebrow, noting the determination, but didn't pry. Good. She'll need follow-ups every 2 weeks. We'll be here, Adam said. Adanna whispered, Sir, I work during the day. Adam turned. Then I'll take her when you can't. She stared at him, stunned. You would do that? She breathed. I would, he said simply. She's part of my responsibility now. Outside the clinic, Adam knelt beside Luce as she buttoned her little coat. Mr. Adam, she said softly, are you mad I ate your food? His chest tightened. No. I'm mad I didn't know you were hungry. She nodded, accepting that as truth in a way only children could. Then she held out her rabbit, the one with the missing ear. Here, she said shyly. He's for you, so you don't feel lonely. Adam blinked. He's your favorite. She shrugged. But you look like you need him more. Something inside him broke so silently he couldn't feel the pieces falling. He took the rabbit gently. "Thank you, Luz." And he meant it more deeply than he had ever meant anything. Before they parted ways, Adam made one more decision. "Adanna," he said, "you're taking a week off. Paid. Be with your daughter. Rest." "But sir, Gnome always said—" Adam stopped her. "Gnome is gone. And from now on, this house answers to compassion, not fear." She covered her mouth as tears spilled silently. Not tears of sadness, tears of relief. The kind people carry for so long they don't even know they're heavy until someone lifts the weight. He walked them to their bus stop, something no billionaire would ever be seen doing, and waited with them until the bus pulled in with a hiss of brakes. As they stepped aboard, Luce leaned out and waved. "Bye, Mr. Adam. Don't forget to feed my rabbit." He laughed, an unguarded, real laugh he hadn't felt in years. "I won't," he called back. The bus rolled away. And for the first time, Adam Hale stood on an ordinary city sidewalk, feeling strangely like a better man than he'd ever been in his penthouse office. Driving back to the mansion, Adam replayed everything: the clinic's old floors, the weary doctor, the mother who carried her whole world in her arms, the child who apologized for being hungry. He gripped the steering wheel tightly. He had been blind. But blindness wasn't the crime. Refusing to see once you finally knew, that was unforgivable. As he pulled into the mansion gates, the world looked different. The gardens seemed too trimmed, the marble too polished, the air too cold. He exhaled. "This house needs more than new rules," he murmured. "It needs a new soul." And he knew exactly where to start. Tomorrow he would confront Gnome, not with anger, but with truth. And after that, Adanna's life would change. Luce's future would change. And Adam's heart had already begun to change. The morning light stretched across the marble floors like gold poured over glass. For years, Adam had admired that gleam, a symbol of success, precision, control. Today, it looked sterile, cold, empty. He stood at the grand window, coffee cooling untouched in his hand, watching the gates open for the day's staff arrivals. It was strange how quiet guilt made the world. Every sound felt sharper: the ticking clock, the faint hum of the air conditioner, even his own heartbeat echoing inside that vast house. He'd spent years building an empire, but this silence reminded him that empires meant nothing if they were built on the backs of the unseen. And the unseen were exactly who he was about to face. He had summoned them all, every member of the household staff, to the central hall. The maids arrived first, exchanging nervous glances. The drivers followed, standing along the side, unsure what the meeting meant. Finally, Gnome entered, polished as always, chin lifted in practiced authority. "Sir," Gnome began smoothly, "I've assembled the team as requested. I assume this is about the new security." "It's about integrity," Adam interrupted quietly. Gnome blinked. "I beg your pardon?" Adam set his coffee down. "Let's talk about how this house treats the people who keep it alive." A ripple of confusion passed through the staff. Gnome's polite smile didn't waver, but his shoulders stiffened. "I don't understand," he said. "You will." Adam walked forward, voice calm but carrying through the hall. "A few nights ago I came downstairs, and I found a child, hungry, terrified, eating from the leftovers we were about to throw away." Gnome's mask didn't crack, but his eyes flickered. The maids froze. The drivers looked at one another uneasily. "That child," Adam continued, "was Luce, Adanna's daughter." All eyes turned toward Adanna, who stood near the back, clutching her apron, trembling. I remember that night, Gnome said evenly. The girl trespassed where she shouldn't have been. I handled it accordingly. Handled it? Adam repeated softly. By humiliating her mother in front of others? By threatening to call child services? A cold, heavy silence filled the room. Gnome straightened. With respect, sir, we have rules. Staff are forbidden from bringing family into the main dining area. It's a matter of discipline. It's a matter of cruelty, Adam cut in. His tone didn't rise, it dropped lower, sharper, colder. And I will not tolerate cruelty in my house. Gnome tried to recover, folding his hands. Sir, you've always entrusted me with maintaining order. If the maid's daughter was sneaking food... Because she was starving, Adam snapped. The words thundered through the marble chamber, echoing like thunder after lightning. Luce's name didn't just hang in the air, it haunted it. Adanna's eyes brimmed with tears, but Adam lifted a hand gently toward her, not to silence, but to protect. She wasn't stealing, he said. She was surviving. And you, Gnome, instead of helping her, used that moment to remind everyone who held power here. The facade finally cracked. Gnome's jaw tightened. With all due respect, sir, the hierarchy in this household has kept things running efficiently. The staff respect rules. They feared you, Adam said, not respected. Fear isn't loyalty. It's rot. The staff glanced among themselves. Hesitant, but slowly, one by one, nods began to appear. Quiet, trembling agreement. Adanna whispered, It's true. Gnome's eyes flashed. You dare! Enough, Adam said. He turned to the others. If anyone here has been mistreated, silenced, or shamed under this man's authority, you speak freely today. No consequences. None. For a moment, no one moved. Then an older housekeeper, Mrs. Callan, stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she spoke. He deducted wages, sir. When we asked for repairs on our quarters, said we should be grateful to even live here. Another maid whispered, He locked the pantry last winter, said food waste was bad, but he made us skip lunch to save cost. Gnome spun toward them. Lies! All of it! Adam's voice cut through him like a blade. Stop! He turned fully to Gnome, every trace of softness gone. I've given you control, trust, years of loyalty, and you used that power to make decent people feel small. Gnome swallowed, his smooth tone faltering. Sir, you can't simply take the word of servants. That's where you're wrong, Adam said. They're not servants. They're people. And their word is all that matters today. Adam walked toward him, every step deliberate. Do you remember what you said to Adanna that night? Gnome froze. You said, This house doesn't feed strays. Whispers rippled through the staff. Adam's voice was steady, each word landing like a gavel. That sentence has echoed in my head ever since, and I realized maybe this house hasn't been feeding strays, but it's been starving its soul. He stopped inches from Gnome. You're dismissed, Adam said quietly, effective immediately. Gnome's face drained of color. You can't. I can, and I just did. Security, now under new management, stepped forward. 2 guards who once feared Gnome's commands now standing ready for Adam's. You'll receive your final payment and leave the premises today, Adam said. And if I hear you've harassed anyone after this moment, you'll answer to the law. Gnome's mask shattered. You'll regret this, sir. You think kindness will keep a mansion running? They'll walk all over you. Adam's reply was quiet, almost tender. If kindness makes me weak, then I'd rather be weak in a house filled with laughter than strong in a home filled with fear. Gnome's eyes burned, but he saw the resolve and knew the old order was gone. He turned sharply and strode toward the door, fury hiding the tremor in his step. The heavy doors closed behind him with a final thud, like a curse breaking. For a long moment, Nobody spoke. The air itself seemed lighter, freer, like the house had exhaled after years of holding its breath. Then Adanna stepped forward.
Sir, I don't know what to say.
Don't say anything, Adam replied softly. Just promise me this. From now on, no one here eats alone. No one hides to feel safe. She nodded, tears glistening. He turned to the others. This mansion has enough food to feed 100 families. Starting tonight, we'll open the kitchen every Sunday. You can bring your families, your children, anyone who's gone hungry because of us. Gasps rippled, disbelief, then joy. Mrs. Callan covered her mouth. One of the younger maids began to cry. Adanna whispered,
You mean that?
I do, Adam said. And I'll be here serving with you. That drew a stunned silence. Then slow, hesitant applause that grew into something powerful, not out of fear, out of gratitude. When the others left, Adanna lingered.
You didn't have to do this,
she said softly. I did, Adam answered, because I can't undo what happened, but I can make sure it never happens again. She smiled faintly, weary but bright. You've changed. He gave a small laugh. I think Luce changed me. At her name, Adanna's expression softened. She asks about you, you know. She says you're her rich friend who looks sad. Adam blinked, then smiled quietly. She's more perceptive than most adults I know. Adanna hesitated, then asked,
Why did you care so much, sir? People like us. We're used to being invisible.
He looked toward the high ceilings, where the light slanted golden through the glass. Because, he said, I realized that somewhere along the way, I forgot what it meant to feel. Money gives comfort, not connection. And when I saw Luce eating alone, I saw myself, surrounded by abundance but starved of meaning. Adanna said nothing, but her eyes filled again. Gratitude, understanding, something deeper. That night, Adam sat alone in his study, the same room where he had once dismissed the world with a single call. Now the phone was silent, the desk bare, the walls warmer somehow. He placed Luce's rabbit, the one with the missing ear, on the edge of the desk beside him. The small, imperfect toy made the room feel more real than all the art on the walls. He looked out at the dark gardens below. Tomorrow, he thought, the house begins again. He imagined it, the laughter of staff's children running through the courtyard, the smell of bread baking not for him, but for everyone, the hum of conversation around the same long table that had once been reserved only for him. For the first time, he didn't feel like a man living in a mansion. He felt like a man living in a home. In the quiet of that moment, Adam whispered to the empty room, No more. The same words he had said in guilt weeks ago, now spoken as a vow, not a confession. No more fear. No more silence. No more hunger hiding in the shadows. And somewhere, deep in the city, as Adanna tucked Luce into bed, the little girl giggled softly, telling her mother that Mr. Adam promised to feed the rabbit tomorrow. Adanna smiled, brushing her daughter's hair, and in another part of the city, Adam Hale, the billionaire once blind to suffering, felt a peace that no fortune had ever given him. The reckoning was complete, not one of rage, but of restoration. The first day of spring came quietly. No announcements, no ceremonies, just sunlight spilling through the windows of the Hale mansion. Soft, golden, alive. For years, that light had touched only glass and marble. Today, it fell on something new, the sound of people laughing. The mansion was no longer a monument to solitude. It breathed now, through the hum of voices, the rhythm of footsteps, the scent of fresh bread from the kitchen. In the courtyard, tables had been arranged under the blooming cherry trees. White cloths fluttered gently in the breeze, and children's laughter echoed off the old stone walls. Adam stood by the fountain, watching everything unfold. The Sunday table, as the staff now called it, had become a tradition. Every week, workers brought their families. The chefs cooked together. Luce would run between tables carrying napkins or flowers, helping in ways only children thought of, joyful, messy, perfect. Adam had insisted on it. No ranks, no separate tables, just one home. Now it had become real. At the head of the garden, Adanna stood in a crisp blue uniform, the only one in the mansion not white, a small but clear symbol of her new position. Head of staff. It wasn't just a promotion, it was a promise kept. When Adam had offered it, she'd hesitated, fearful of resentment, unsure if she was worthy. But he had smiled and said, "You've already been running this house with your kindness. Let the title catch up." And she had. Now she managed everything, the schedules, the menus, the community programs that had started growing out of this very garden. Once, she had been invisible in this house. Now, she was its heart. As she walked past Adam, she paused. "You should sit, sir. Enjoy your own party for once." He smiled faintly. "I enjoy watching it more." She raised an eyebrow. "You sound like an old man?" He laughed. "I feel like one sometimes." Adanna's expression softened. "You've changed, Adam." "Maybe," he said, looking toward the laughter. "Or maybe I finally started listening." The gates of the estate had never been open to the public before. Now, every Sunday, they were. At first, the neighbors had gossiped. A billionaire hosting workers and families in his gardens? What's next? Free tea for strangers? But then something strange happened. People started showing up not to gawk, but to help. Local bakers donated pastries. A florist sent boxes of flowers each week. Even the city's paper ran a small column titled, "The Mansion That Feeds." The Hale estate, once a symbol of distance, had become a symbol of community. And Adam, for all his wealth and history, stood humbly in the background, handing out lemonade beside the children. Luce called it the Big Picnic. One afternoon, as the event wound down, a figure appeared near the gate. Adanna noticed first. The rigid posture, the hesitant steps. Gnome. He looked older, thinner, the sharp arrogance worn down to something hollow. His eyes darted nervously, as though expecting to be thrown out. The guards glanced at Adam for instruction. Adam simply nodded. "Let him in." Gnome approached slowly. "Sir, I didn't come to cause trouble. I just wanted to return this." He held out a small key, the one to the old pantry lock. Adam stared at it, then took it gently. "You kept it all this time?" Gnome's voice was low. "I didn't know what else to do with it. After you fired me, I thought about everything, about how I treated them, about what I became." Adanna stood nearby, tense, but Adam remained calm. "You were cruel," Adam said honestly, "but cruelty doesn't have to be forever." Gnome blinked. "You'd forgive me?" "I already did," Adam said softly. "The day I chose to change this house. That's what forgiveness is, changing what hurt you into something that heals others." Gnome swallowed hard. "You're a better man than I was." "Then learn from it," Adam said. "Use what you've learned to build something decent." Gnome nodded, his eyes glistening. "I will." As he turned to leave, Adanna called gently, "Mr. Gnome." He stopped, surprised. She offered him a small paper bag. "There's bread inside. It's good fresh, better shared." For a moment he couldn't speak. He just nodded, clutching it to his chest before walking away. Adam watched him go, not with triumph, but with peace. Later that evening, as the last guests left and the sun melted behind the trees, Luce ran across the garden in her little yellow dress. "Mr. Adam, come on," she shouted, waving her arms. "You promised to play." He smiled, setting aside his jacket and kneeling down as she handed him a skipping rope. "I'm terrible at this," he warned. "That's okay," she said with perfect seriousness. "You're good at trying." He laughed, truly laughed, and jumped along as she counted loudly, her giggles echoing through the courtyard. Adanna stood by the kitchen steps watching them, the billionaire skipping rope with a child who once hid in his pantry. The sight filled her with something beyond words. Gratitude, maybe, or healing. It didn't matter. It was beautiful. When evening fell and everyone gathered to say goodbye, Adam raised a glass. He wasn't one for speeches, but tonight felt different. "I spent most of my life thinking success was measured by what you own," he began, "but it's measured by what you share." The crowd grew still. "This house used to be quiet, too quiet. I thought that was peace. It was emptiness. Now every laugh, every plate passed around this garden. That's what fills it." He paused, his gaze finding Adanna and Luce among the faces. "And I want to say thank you, to both of you, for reminding me that even the richest house is empty without kindness." Applause broke out, soft at first, then warm and sustained. Some of the older staff wiped tears. Adanna smiled through her own, and Luce, climbing onto a chair, shouted, "We love you, Mr. Adam." The laughter that followed rolled through the garden like sunlight breaking after rain. As the night deepened, fairy lights twinkled across the branches. Children dozed in their mothers' laps. Someone began playing a slow tune on a guitar. Adam sat quietly under the old oak tree, watching. He felt something unfamiliar but certain. Peace. Not the kind bought by isolation or noise, but the kind born from belonging. Adanna joined him, carrying 2 cups of tea. "Thinking again?" she teased. "Always." "What about?" He smiled faintly. "About how strange it feels to finally have everything, and realize it's not what I thought everything was." She handed him the cup. "Then maybe it's exactly what you were supposed to find." They sat together in silence. The sounds of the garden filled the air, laughter, music, the low hum of life continuing. When the night finally ended and everyone had gone, Adam walked alone toward the fountain. The garden was quiet now, silvered by moonlight. The water glimmered softly, petals floating on its surface. He reached into his pocket and pulled out Luce's rabbit, the same one with the missing ear, now patched neatly with yellow thread. He smiled, placing it gently beside the fountain edge. "For you," he whispered, "and for everyone who ever went unseen." Behind him, a small giggle broke the silence. He turned. Luce stood in the doorway, her sleepy face half hidden behind the curtain. "Good night, Mr. Adam," she whispered. He smiled. "Good night, Luce." And as she disappeared inside, her laughter, that bright, innocent laughter, rippled through the garden one last time, carried on the soft spring air. It was the sound of healing, of forgiveness, of a mansion that had finally become a home. The house was no longer silent. It was alive.